Let's get it.
How's it going, guys? Alex here from Runner Poker, and you're watching episode 25 of my poker vlog. Today we're playing 2-5 Pot Limit Omaha at the Daytona Beach Racing and Card Club. I'll be providing commentary across the hands while exploring Earl Brown Park in DeLand, Florida. Real quick before we get started, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any new vlogs. Also, if you want to see me play your favorite hand, like this video and comment your hand below. Without further ado, let's get into the action. First hand we're going to get into, it's like one of the first or second hands that we see after sitting down. It's one we probably shouldn't have gotten into, looking down at 7-7-5-3 single suited in the small blind facing 4 limpers. As played, we chose to complete, and luckily for us, the big blind checks their option. We're going 6 ways. First to go to a flop, that comes 4-6-7. Hey, it's about as good as you can ask for with as bad of a hand that we started with. We decide in this limp pot to take control of the action and bet 20 with top set. The big blind is the only caller as the rest of the field folds. Now, we decide on this turn to do a deck check and make sure that all 4 sevens are accounted for. Turns out they are, as we turn quads. Now, I think about checking here for some deception, but I ultimately would hate to lose a street of value, so I bet again for 35. And then our opponent murmurs this.
It's like the worst card in the deck for me.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, actually, no. Straight flush draw now. Maybe I'll hit my straight flush.
If our opponent is telling the truth, there's still a chance that we could lose this hand. But like, what are the odds of that?
Tell me your 1 outer bad beat story.
Luckily, it doesn't come to that, but unluckily, we reach for chips and our opponent mucks. So definitely going to show this one off. I mean, it's quads. It's not every day you make quads. So starting the session real strong, hoping we can continue this run throughout the rest of the session, playing some PLO here. Moving up from the worst to the best, I know we've got a good hand this time. We've got double suited aces, 1 to the wheel and 1 to Broadway. So there's a couple limps to us, and that's not going to be enough. We make it 50 to go. Now, here's the thing. Whether it's No Limit Hold'em or Pot Limit Omaha, this is still Florida poker, baby, so no one's folding. The straddler calls, one of the limpers calls, and the small blind calls. So we're going to go 4 ways to this flop with 2-10 in the middle, a completely bloated pot with aces to a flop. It comes 3-7-9. Ugh, kind of a gross flop being multi-way. Small blind checks. I decide with aces here to check for some pot control, and then the straddler says this. I'm either making some money this hand, or I'm going home broke. And they pot it for 2-10. If they couldn't get any worse, the next player to go counts out 2-10, and then stacks another 300 on top of that and pushes it in. The small blind then takes the little bit of what they've got left and slides it over the line. And this has to just be like a really sad fold with aces, right? There's already 3 people that have committed a large amount of money. Like, we can't be good. We can never be good. Aces, 1 pair, and a backdoor, the backdoor nut flush draw, like, it just sucks. But I decide to make the fold relatively quickly. The straddler then just repots it and jams effectively, and then the next player to go calls him. So, yeah. Massive pot already developed. They're already all in. We're going to a run out, and that run out comes Queen 7. The straddler sheepishly announces 2 pair and shows Queen 9, and the other 2 players muck. What? Aces would have held? That's insane, man. Welcome to Florida poker, where 1 pair on the flop is good enough for a 4-way all-in. That's just crazy. Picking up a very similar looking hand this time, we've got ace, jack, king, king with a single suit to the king in the hijack. There's a couple limps to us, and we pot the action up to $25. We're going to go 4 ways to this flop with 105 in the middle to a flop that comes even worse than the previous hand. It's 9-8-5. To make matters even worse, the player to our right pauses and then leads into us for pot. I think we could just kind of exploitatively fold here, considering that I don't really think there's going to be a lot of bluffs in this game, and we've got 2 players to act to our left, so I just fold as the other 2 players in the hand, and predictably, the player that led shows 5s for flop bottom set. I don't think there's a lot we can do there, honestly. starting to loosen up and just wanting to play some more hands, we look down at King, Queen, 10, 7, double suited in the low jack. It's not really the best hand to play, but, you know, it's got some connectivity and some playability, so I elect to limp in. We're going 5 ways to this flop, 25 in the middle, to a flop that comes 3, 8, 9. I mean, flopping open-ended on a rainbow non-paired board, it's kind of where we wanted to be with this hand, honestly. Checks to us. I don't think there's really good reason to start semi-bluffing into 4 people, so I check. The hijack disagrees, though, and bets for 15. Folds around to the player to my right, and I think this is a great spot to just close the action and call. So we make the call, and it's finally time for us to win a big one as the dealer drops the jack of clubs on the turn, giving us the nuts. Player to our right checks, and here I decide to do something that I rarely, if ever, do. I decide to lead out with the nuts into the aggressor from the previous street. Now, this may be the first recorded instance of me ever doing this across my vlog. One of the first instances I've ever done this. And here's why I did it. I do not want this to go check-check on the river. I think a lead here is also small enough relative to the pot that a lot of strong hands just aren't folding. 2 pairs aren't folding. Sets aren't folding. You know, because these donks are generally looked at as fairly exploitative, I don't think I'm going to get exploited here because I don't play PLO that often for people to know that me leading here with the nuts is strong. I don't do that in Hold'em ever, so I don't think this is super exploitatable, but I just do not want this to go check-check on the river, and I think that there's plenty of strong hands that can call and even raise here while we're holding the nuts. So I decided to make the lead, and to our delight, both players make the call, which is great. Heads up to a river, please, one time, keep it clean, and it is. It's the 6 of spades, keeping our nuts at the top. Checks to us. We bet 110 for value, and unfortunately for our dreams of value, both players fold. However, feels good to finally drag in a big pot, keeping our nuts on top. Feeling a little deja vu from the previous vlog? I think we had that line in there somewhere. Huh. For this next hand, we are under the gun in a straddled pot. That hand is probably a fold, right?
And folding is boring with a pair here.
And content. So I decide to make the call. I just limp in under the gun. Not an advisable play, but luckily for us, it literally limps all the way around and checks. So we're going to go 8 ways to this flop. It's a family pot, 80 in the middle. And the flop comes 3, 5, jack. Not bad. Top pair, flush draw. You know, it could be worse. It's probably a little worse than not bad considering we're into 7 other people. But, you know, what can you do? Checks to us, we check, and interestingly, it checks all the way through. So we're going to go to free card on the turn, and that card sucks. It's another 3. So now we're even further downgraded. If we make our flush, we're probably not going to be able to beat much. But interestingly enough, it checks all the way around for a second time. So off to a final card, which is an interesting one. It's the King of Spades. Let me tell you why this is interesting, because you know, there could be some hands we're actually beating now. You know, we beat smaller flushes. We're only losing to boats, you know, quads, other higher flushes. It checks to us, we check, and then the hijack finally comes out of their shell and bets $50. Folds all the way back to me, and I think about it for a minute, right? I'm thinking, there's been no strength shown in this hand whatsoever. A boat probably would have bet the turn, and if they do have a higher flush than us, it has to be exactly an ace-x or a queen-x combo, right? So I think we may be able to call beating some hands, right? Unless, no. Are we getting trapped by quads here? With that mentality, I decide to toss in the call. The rest of the players fold. And yeah, our bluff catch didn't go so well as we are showing quads. So if you lose the quads, you lose the quads, right? That's going to be way good. We muck our hand away, and that's the end of that hand. From trash to a gold mine, we're looking down at another actually strong hand. Looking down at ace-5 jack-jack with a suited wheel ace. There's an early position raised to 10, and we're definitely not going to call here. We're potting it, so up to $40 we go. Interestingly, the hijack cold calls, and then it gets back around to the original raiser, who 4-bets to 110. Now here's the problem. I hate all of our options. I think folding is just too nitty. We've got a good hand. I mean, we've got a suited ace and jacks. That's pretty good. I don't like the idea of 5-betting because I think this hand is just a little bit too marginal to 5-bet, but I also hate calling because then it leaves one player behind that could get fancy. So what would you guys do in this spot? It's really gross. I decide that it's a decent price, so I make the call, as does the hijack. So we're going to go 3 ways in the middle between these two to a bloated pot with 330 in the middle to a flop that comes queen 5-3. Not exactly what we hoped for, not awful, but definitely puts us in a worse spot when the initial raiser rips a stack in there for about 200 or so. With second pair in the backdoor nut flush draw, I don't think we have the odds to continue, so unfortunately, I let it go again, as does the hijack. And then the pre-flop aggressor is kind enough to show.
That's pretty good. Well, that's a little better.
Last hand we're going to look at here is an absolute doozy of a hand. A hand I really don't even think I should have been in, but let me know what you think. We've got ace, queen, jack, 9 under the gun. I decide to limp because folding is boring, as does 4 other players. So we're going to go 5 ways to this flop, out of position-ish, since both the blinds are in. 25 in the middle to a very good flop for us that comes queen, jack, 8. Small blind decides to take the aggression on the pot and pots it for $25. Big blind folds, and I make the call at top 2 pair, and the rest of the players decide to call as well. So the pot's growing. We're 4 ways now, and we make 3 pair on the turn with a 9. Now, of course, that doesn't really mean anything, but the small blind slows down their aggression and checks. I decide to check as the board is pretty connected now, and the rest of the players check. So we're going to get a free card on the river, and it's like the biggest brick in the deck. It's an offsuit 3. Small blind checks. I check just trying to get to showdown. And then the last player in the hand, of course, has to ruin it for everybody and bets 75. Small blind folds, and you're going to have to take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I'm no PLO expert, but I think this is going to be one of our hands that's going to be the best to call down with. I mean, we beat all the bluffs. We beat all the lower 2 pairs. We block a lot of hands that beat us. I mean, we block lots of sets. You know, we block queens, jacks, and 9s. We block lots of the straights. We block queen 10, jack 10, 9, 10. So, like, we've got a lot of blockers for the hands that do actually beat us here. So I think about it for a while, eventually talk myself into calling. I decide I want to see it. I pay the 75. Last player that hasn't called yet folds. And, of course, we get the bad news that this player does have one of the straights that we lose to. They show 10-7 for the bottom end. I think that's kind of a loose bet on their side, honestly. But, you know, let me know what you guys think. I don't know. Should this be a call? Should this be a fold? We've got a lot of blockers. I still think it's one of the better hands that we can call here with. Let me know what you guys think. I was trying to find some like real well-lit spots to film this because it is late at night right now. Because I was trying to stick with the video theme that we played this session really late at night. I don't usually play that late. Usually I get there at like 6 o'clock-ish, play for a few hours, leave around 10, 11. But I decided to go real late this time, and we got into a crazy PLO game, which is something I don't do very often either. So I'm still walking around trying to find a spot with some good light. You know, got the basketball courts. Those are cool. Those, whatever's in those trees, I think they're like some kind of bug. They're really, really loud. But skate park's over there, and it's empty because it just rained, which is nice for us. Man, I used to be a real ride or die back in my early days. It's bringing back memories. If this video gets 300 likes and 20 comments telling me to do a vlog on a skateboard, I will do a vlog on a skateboard just for you. Not necessarily a trick board around one of these parks. Maybe just on a longboard, or maybe my electric skateboard if it comes in time. So 300 likes, 20 comments telling me to do a vlog on a board, and I'll do it. As always, of course, here are the results from this session. Into the game for 1,200, out of the game for 550. Ugh. Booking a cute little loss of $650 over the course of about 4.5 hours. Now, like I said, you're gonna have to take the session with a little grain of salt because I'm not a PLO player, but I want to try to provide you guys some different with. Back to what I said before, you're going to have to take some of these plays and analyses with a grain of salt because I'm not a PLO player, but I wanted to try to bring you guys some alternative content. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and going over some PLO. Remember, get out in your community, go to the skate park, go jog. There's some lakes around here that you can jog around. I'm not saying go to the land, but I'm sure that you've got some places you can get outside. Keep your body healthy, keep your mind healthy. This is Runner Poker. Have a good one.